All right, thank you so much for staying with the Monday Report. This is the Town Hall session. We're getting into that discussion. We're calling it BBI and the youth. It's a discussion that will take a long time, and it will be held in forums such as these, and that's why we invite your views as well. 22422 is the SMS line, at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. Did the BBI capture your aspirations? Why your recommendations taken as the youth? That's what we'd like to hear from you. Start by introducing my guest from my farthest right, Honorable Kaliba Misi, Member of Parliament Saboti. Thank you so much for coming in. Followed by Jerotich Seii. She likes to call herself active citizen. Thank you so much for coming in as well. Honorable Gideon Keter, nominated Member of Parliament representing the youth in Parliament as well. Thank you for making time. And Arnold Maliba, policy expert. Asante sana for making time as well. We traversed the country and asked the youth what they think about the BBI. Here's what they said.
And I think it has not addressed the youth issues, in that you cannot tell a youth that you are going to give them a tax exemption for 7 years in doing business. How can a youth do business with no money at hand? How can a graduate who has spent a lot of money in the university come and start business with no money at hand? It is very pathetic to tell such a youth to start a business and operate.
You find out that most youths do suffer outside here after they have graduated, like there are no ready jobs. So if they could open avenues through which youths of this country can access those jobs, then at least we get some capital actually to start a business, or even get some money to establish ourselves, we could really appreciate.
And we feel as the youths, we don't have an opportunity. Even in Parliament, we just have one youth nominated. We felt that every county should have an elective position for a young person.
What I would say about the BBI, the whole thing was just a wastage of money and resources, because of time and resources, because the 11 billion that were used to come up with the whole thing could have been used to come up with job opportunities for the youth.
Ukiangalia hata process yenye ilifuatwa kwa hiyo kitu mpaka ikakuwa BBI, mpaka ikaitwa BBI, mpaka saa hii tunasikia inaitwa BBI. Ni process ambao ni watu wawili walitengeneza. Siwezi angalia, na mimi nataka kuambia wananchi ya kwamba msikuwe mkiangalianga tu viti ya watu huko juu. Angalianga kwanza wewe mwenyewe unapata nini kwa hiyo kitu. Kwa sababu ukiangalia kwa saa hii hata hii BBI imekuja kwa wakati ya siasa.
Kama vijana tumesoma hatuna kazi, BBI iongezi kazi. Kama BBI iongezi kazi, tutaiangusha asubuhi na mapema. Kama BBI ileti afya bora kwa wananchi, hiyo tutaiangusha.
All right, those are the views of the people there in regards to the BBI. We'd like to invite your views as well. 22422 is the SMS line, like I mentioned earlier on, at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. And let's get straight into it and have guests who are all youth. They say they've read the report. They're still continuing to read. Some of them saying, bado wanaenda kurevise. Hakuna mwa Kenya. And you have the microphone back there. Let's start with you. Start with your name and tell us, do you think the BBI captured your aspirations as a young man?
Thank you very much, this forum. My name is Harrison. What actually I expected from the BBI is the aspect of inclusivity for the youths. But that aspect we didn't see coming out clearly. They just mentioned positions of the PM and the position of the cabinet secretaries, but they didn't specifically mention whether they will be occupied by a person who is a youth. So for me, I feel it leaves some gap. It leaves some gap, and it will need some changes so that it can accommodate clearly the youths of this country.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's a microphone back here as well. Just start with your name and then tell us what you think about the BBI.
My name is Winnie Adoyo from the National Youth Council, and it's a pleasure to be here. Personally, I don't feel like the BBI is capturing my aspirations as a youth in this country, and this is because the whole hulabaloo is about the election, the positions, PM, and who is not to be elected where. I wish we made the discussion to be around economic empowerment, more of something, how can we get better, how can we put food on the table of a youth like myself who is out of school, who is getting jobs, some are already married, starting young families, and we lack basic needs of life. So to me, it is a no.
There's a proposal for a 7-year tax break for every young man who's starting a business. Is that good enough?
Not really, because when we're talking of starting a business, of course, that one is kind of they tried to think of us. But then I'm starting a business. Where do I even get the capital in the first place? Because we have more challenges. For me to start a business today, I don't have the capital in the first place. So you want to relieve me from the tax, that's good, fair enough. But still, I think the environment itself is not even welcoming. To register a very small business that I want to do, just getting to the government offices, they slap me with requirements that I cannot even attain. And I just want to start a very small business to sustain a small family where I stay.
Okay.
So to me, I still feel not very content.
Okay. Hamisi, you presented a petition to the BBI team that was capturing the young people aspirations. Was it captured in the report?
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. I did present a petition before the BBI team in company of several youths across board, youth from the civil societies, youth from the university student leadership, some members of parliament who are youthful, and youth from political parties. Some of the views were partly captured, especially the one touching on the tax holidays. Because you realize most youths who have started businesses, they basically need some incentives. And some of the incentives is like tax holidays or just scrapping tax altogether. But I might say that a lot of expectation from the youth was so high in the BBI, and I do not think that the youth seems confident that all their views were captured. Because when you are talking about a document that is supposed to be for posterity, a document that is supposed to serve a population that is made up of 60, close to 60% who are a youth, then you expect that almost 60% of that document should be about youth. So I think to that extent, I mean, there are the areas that touch on the youth are multifaceted. We have youth in politics, we have youth in entrepreneurship, we have talent, people who are youths who are just in talent development, youth in music, youth in arts, youth in sports. So it's a whole, conglomeration of talents and areas that youth needed to have given their views. And I do not even think that youth were actually actively, even looking at the setup of the committee, what we call the task force, was mostly about the older generation. So you would expect at least a young person among them, probably, during the report writing. We did our part, we present our views, but what happened during the report writing if one of us was not among them? So those are the areas that we needed to, I will say that we've heard the reports for many years, we've heard the reports like this, but to an extent, this one tried to come close to the youth, as much as did not capture as much as we wished for. But at least now we are having a conversation that youth, something about youth was inside, about entrepreneurship, how to, incentivize the arts and the music industry, how to capture the unemployment menace that has always been, always been grappling around with. So that's why we have a conversation, because something about youth was captured.
Okay.
But in most of the documents, we have always ignored youth altogether.
I'll come back to you again to talk about the highlights of the petition, what was captured and what was not captured. But Jerotich, what do you make of the BBI now? I know you've read this a couple of times now.
Yes, thank you so much, Trevor. I have had a chance to read through the report. And the first thing I will say about the presence of youth, let me use myself as an example. What am I doing here? I even asked you. I'm many things, but I'm not a youth. And this is exactly what is wrong with the BBI. We are here talking about youth, but youth have been objectified or subjectified. They are not present all the time. I mean, I know my colleague here has said that there was a bit of representation. And I think the first thing that we need to be very clear in our minds around is that the BBI is not about anything other than succession and consolidation of political power for purposes of economic gain for a select group of people. This has absolutely nothing to do with the ordinary mwananchi, the ordinary Mkenya. So if this has nothing to do with the ordinary in Kenya, except whipping people up into populist frenzies around what side you support, and whether the report was good or whether the report was bad, then why would it have anything to do with young people? My read-through of the document demonstrated an utter contempt for young people. Young people are the crazy people. They're the ones who are betting, doing drugs, committing suicide, engaged in delinquent behavior. The families have broken down. We're talking about everything around young people was negative. There was reference to youth feel marginalized, youth feel left out. But when it came to concrete recommendations, yes, there's a tax, there's a 7-year tax window. But if you're going to set up your welding business, so first of all, it's implying that there should be a level of self-employment on the part of the youth. If you can't afford your electricity, even if you have a tax break, if you don't have an interest rate that is friendly because you don't have collateral, you don't have access to credit, so what? You can give me a 30-year tax break, it won't help me. When you come to the end, there's a couple of comments and references to young people. We need to employ them. They're underemployed. We need to look at education. So everything it's gone wrong around young people. But the solutions in concrete terms, as far as I read, were not actually there. And when I look at issues of representation, they talked about, for example, if you have a male governor, his deputy should be the opposite gender. That was wrong use of the word gender. Because by saying should be the opposite gender, they were meaning opposite sex. So if you have a male governor, you should have a female deputy governor. So if you have a female governor, you should have a male deputy governor. It did not take into consideration gender in its totality. That would have included marginalized persons, persons with disabilities, young people. You see, so there's a lot of lip service, but when you pick it apart, when you begin to look at the nitty-gritty of what this report is all about, it has really left out all Kenyans, especially young people.
Okay. Keter, is that your reading of the BBI as well?
As for me, there's a big difference to think you're a fisherman fishing in the lake and standing in the shores of the lake like an idiot and coming home with nothing. If you look at the BBI, it's a raw deal. When it comes to youth, it is very silent about it. To put tax holiday and to tell us about Huduma, that it is working, about small businesses. When you talk about the small business bill in Parliament has never been funded. It is a bill and it's static. It has never been funded. Recently, like 4 or 6 months ago, they advertised for positions to small and medium enterprise parastatal, which they have never even done recruiting, they have never done shortlisting. So it is just a shell. We are good on paper, but when it comes to reality, we are not there.
Keter, what I find interesting is why are you lamenting like the rest of us? And you are a nominated MP to represent the youth in Parliament. What are you doing while you're in there?
Thank you. That's why I'm saying when the system is bad, it can defeat even a good person. When the system is bad, even us young people will never benefit out of it. So to me, I'm looking at this, this greeting, the two, is an opportunity to continue certain behaviors that has been there ever since the creation of this young country.
Okay.
We look at Kenya as a young nation. A nation we expect to be built by young individuals. We complain as youth that we are not happy about 1 or 2 things. You find even frustration in the universities. Democracy is dead. They say there's democracy, but when even young people like those in university try to share their grievances, maybe they are not happy with the university, they share their grievances, they are beaten, like as if we are not the children of this country. We try to look at opportunities that are available, that have been set up by the government, like the youth fund. You still find the elders come in the name of fake directors. They only put 2 young people and then they show up as directors, and then when it comes to bank account, it is still the same elders who are doing the same thing. So the system, even inside the Parliament, is still also affecting our way of coordinating things.
So you're saying it's a system that
yes,
is
it is
bad.
a system. Even this handshake is purely to look into. Look at this, Trevor. We are going to launch BBI. But what comes out of BBI, and everyone is talking about, is the creation of Prime Minister. None of these young people will be able to get that seat of a Prime Minister. We still talk about who is going to take this. And no one is actually trying to discuss how are we going to solve the problem of unemployment. How are we going to ensure that the corporate sector, young people can be given an opportunity to start up businesses, not even just start up businesses. How can we address the problem of unemployment?
Okay.
So it is purely a road deal.
Arnold, what did you get from the BBI?
Well, I read, yesterday was my third time reading the BBI report. And if you look at BBI from the youth perspective, anyone who's actually speaking for young people and says that he has seen it, has tried, it means that person has not been, or rather is not in sync with the needs of young people, and probably has not interacted with the other documents that have tried to settle or rather to address youth issues. If you compared BBI, for example, with the sessional paper number 10 of 2013 on Kenya's strategy, is a policy paper on strategy on employment, job creation, for example, you will realize BBI is a joke. We already have got a proper document that will work on that particular end if you're to look at livelihoods. The very important things that young people are looking for, there are very many things, but what's of importance to young people is normally livelihoods. You know, like just access to education, skills, development and training, issues around access to information, access to credit, access to market, and technological transfer, for example. Yeah. Those things are not touched. But then there are documents that do exist. But I would understand that BBI is a recommendations report. Therefore, it's not implementable as it is. But if you hear anyone talking about we are going to implement the BBI report, that's a joker. He really doesn't know what it really means, because that document is amorphous. It is like, it's aspirational. It's like the Sermon on the Mountain by Jesus. Yeah. You're speaking the same language as the speaker. So National Assembly. You have to get... also said the same thing. So you need Paul, the apostle, to actually now come up with the Acts of the Apostle and the other letters he writes to implement that Sermon on the Mountain. Okay. So from where it is, it has to go a step further. And that step is to actually have technical people in those thematic areas, break it down, come up with a matrix of implementation complete with what is supposed to be done. But for young people, we do not need BBI, for example, for Parliament to realize Article 100, that is about youth representation. Those guys refused. We do not need the handshake in the first place for the President and this government and Parliament, where the bill on Article 27 has failed 5 times. I am surprised that they even want to take this bill and they are saying they want to implement BBI, when 90% of what is in the BBI report doesn't need a handshake, doesn't need the change of a constitution, doesn't need, so it just needs a parliament and a proper leadership to do its work. But the bit in the BBI report that needs constitutional change is less than 3%, just around the structure and function of parliament. The rest can be actually done through legislation, policy, and administrative action here and there. Okay. So literally, if you look at BBI, it is an indictment on the leadership we have had in the last 10 years. Okay. Because it's like a eulogy. It's a mourning. We actually are reading a eulogy, as in these are the things we are supposed to be doing, and then they have... It's an admission of failure. It's an admission of failure. Okay. So anyone out there saying that BBI is giving us the way forward, no, BBI is actually showing us that we are naked. Okay. We need to put on clothes. We should have put on clothes 10 years ago. We haven't done that. Say there's someone here who's asking, is M. Kisa on Twitter is saying, did Jerotich present her views to BBI, or she kept away when some people said it was for conmen?
Well, I personally did not present my views to BBI, for the simple reason that even this 3% that may need to be reviewed and the 97% is implementable, I did not support the handshake. I do not support the handshake. And I've been categorical and clear, because the handshake never had anything at all to do with the people of Kenya. The handshake had everything to do with succession. So I did not present my views, because my views, like everybody else, all the 7,000 people, the other governors, individuals, eminent persons, young people who met, were simply there to pad a retrofitted concept that was already in place. And this 3% that we're talking about is the retrofit. The retrofit here is how are we going to ensure succession in 2022 for certain individuals. Okay. And therefore, I made a principled decision not to participate, because I'm not going to work on spaces that are logically inconsistent for me and expect a logical outcome. And this is why the BBI in and of itself is not logical. So yes, people might turn around and say, oh, so you didn't participate, so why are you criticizing now? I read it, because if I'm going to criticize something that I did not support, I need to have read it. And when I read it, it confirmed, underscored, and underlined for me why I did not participate and why I continue not to support the BBI. Okay. And the idea that we should now move next into committees, implementation, this is where the billions of shillings will get lost. Okay. We said committee after committee. What happened to the Big Four? The Big Four talked about unemployment. Where is our record? Where is the record of young people having been effectively employed, and not just employed as cheap labor here and there, free interns in different places? We are talking about gainful, meaningful employment, correct employment, not the underemployment that we see here. Okay. So many people graduated with engineering degrees. I was looking, JKUAT the other day. We congratulate them. Some had first-class honors. They are ready to move on into the world. 5 years later, you'll find somebody as a security guard. Not that there's anything wrong with being a security guard, but because there is no work. So for me, to try and discuss the problems of Kenya within the framework of the BBI is an exercise in futility. It is like spitting in the wind. It'll go nowhere. All
right. I see you have a microphone there, and there are several questions coming through. So I'll start with you. Start with your name, and then ask your question or raise your concern.
My name is Kombedo Michael, human rights defender, political activist. Me, when I see leaders lamenting about this, I pity the claimant, the people who are supporting the BBI and the people who are opposing the BBI. First of all, let me take this golden chance to acknowledge the effort that were made by the task force headed by our elder, Mr. Yusuf Haj. They try a commendable work. So let me tell this thing. Before you tell us BBI is bad, tell us, first of all, tell us the 9 points agenda. People are just dwelling on the inclusivity. The Prime Minister, the what, talks about the 9 points agenda. First of all, we have what is called the ethnic antagonism. The first one. The second one talks about the lack of national ethos. The third one talks about the inclusivity. The fourth one talks about the divisive election. The fifth one talks about devolution. The sixth one talks about security. The seventh one talks about corruption. The eighth one talks about shared prosperity. The ninth one talks about responsibility. We want you people, tell youth, tell the mass to read this BBI and understand it. Why should you just come here and say the BBI is bad? Maybe you hate somebody like Raila. The BBI is good. Maybe you hate somebody like Ruto. No, tell youth, go and read these things. Me as Kombedo Michael, the human rights defender and political activist, have read these things and have understood it. This BBI will averagely support the youth. But I'm not saying it will support the youth 100%. It will support youth and 50%. Talks about the entrepreneurship. I've read about it. Talks about the whistle blowing. If I blow the whistle that Honorable Hamisi is bad, then I can be able to ascertain that Honorable Hamisi stole 50 million. Then 5% will be mine. Then 5% will be mine. Then that one, I will be helping myself. Go outside there. Ask the likes of Oscar Sudi, ask Murkomen, ask the people who are opposing or supporting this thing. Tell us, what does the 9 points agenda stand for? They don't know. Their work is just BBI is bad. BBI is good. Tell us what is the BBI. So you as a young man, you're absolutely satisfied. I'm telling you, if this thing can be implemented, there are just some things that should be do what's called the panel beating. Okay. If the panel beating can be done, BBI can be good, because we are talking about the ethnic antagonism. Right. There are some things we need to set right here. Let's not come here and say, if a member of parliament is coming here to cry, yet he's in the parliament. He was supposed to take his issues there. He's coming here, want to play with the mindset of the youth that, oh, BBI is bad, I was not there. No. To the Honorable Keter, I'm sorry to say this. You guys are failing us in the National Assembly. Thank you. All right. Pass the microphone to him, and then let's hear what you have to say.
My name is Samuel from law school. And my main issue is on Chapter 7, on shared prosperity. There are good points on the tax holidays and the economic conferences in the counties, whereby the county governments will look at people who don't have employment. But my main issue is on betting. Youths are dying because of betting. Youths are eating school fees because of betting. Youths are sleeping outside because of betting. But the government is not trying to help us. Instead, they want to convert the billions that SportPesa makes to go into the government. The government, on the first instance, took the charity sweepstake that was there in the 90s, sold it to 10lot, an international betting company. Now they want to claim that they can manage all the betting sites that are in Kenya so that the money goes to the government. That is not fair. We'll still continue betting. We'll still continue sleeping hungry. So they should look into the issue of betting.
Okay. Pass the microphone to him. Yes.
Thank you, Trevor. I'm Alex from Mount Kenya University Law School and a youth activist in Laikipia County. My main concern is about employment that has been raised here. And when you're looking at Chapter 7 of the report, it's talking about something to do with employment conferences, whereby the selected committee from the national government and county government will sit down somewhere in a hotel, have breakfast, have lunch, have per diems, and at the end of the day, now they will start discussing youths in this county, where are they going to get jobs. At the end of the day, they go to the airport, take choppers, take helicopters, go back to Nairobi and sleep. At the end of the day, what has it benefited a youth in Turkana County? Yeah? These guys will go to hotels, use per diem. This one is a big scam. The employment conferences in the BBI report will not work for the youth in our country. The BBI report has also talked about making the government e-citizen, e-service. In short, we will be employing technology. That is very good. We support technology and we appreciate technology, but at the end of the day, the task force, the human work which was doing that particular work, where will these guys go? Okay. Are they going to be entrenched? Yep. That's another question that BBI report should also focus on.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's a microphone back there. Just start with your name and raise your concern or question.
Okay, my name is Margaret Wanjiko from Mount Kenya University, Thika campus. And I want to give a general view of the BBI report. Number one, I want to say that BBI, this is a fight of us versus them. As it has always been, it's us versus them always. And every time we lose, we are losing as young people. Number two, I want to say that these are reports, as we're having so many reports. And yes, we'll have this report to go sleep as other reports have been sleeping. And every time you're making policies and decisions, they should be they should be inspired by the future and informed by the past. But when you look at the BBI report, this is a report that is going vice versa. It's being inspired by the past. Why? Because the people that have been ruling us, the people that have been having everything in this country, they still want to have it all. And so it's being inspired by the past and informed by the future. We all know that we as the young people, we want to have a place in this country. We want to feel that, yes, this is where we belong and we've nowhere else to go. And so when the people that are in for the BBI, they know this already, and that's the reason as to why they want to throw us out of here. Okay. That's the reason as to why none of us is included in this, apart from now. How many people want to be entrepreneurs here? Some of us are waiting to graduate. Personally, I want to graduate knowing that I'll go find a job somewhere. We have musicians out here. We have people that are into art. It's not everyone that is into entrepreneurship. Okay. So as much as we were talking about the tax holiday, how about we that don't want to get into entrepreneurship? That's not my desire. That's not what I want. Okay. And at the same time, who came up with this idea? Is it a young person? Is it a young person or a person that was making an assumption that we all want to be entrepreneurs? Okay. I mean, when I look at this true, most of these people are in school. How many of you want to live here, go and start being an entrepreneur? As my friend there raised an issue, saying that it's not just about the taxes. Okay. How is the environment? Personally, I don't want to go out there and start and have the government running after me. I'm about to go start a business, the registration processes and everything. So it's not only about the taxes, but they made the assumption that we all want to be entrepreneurs. Okay. We want to be on these tables and say where the BBI is for us and where it's not for us. We are 60%, as you said.
All right.
Yeah.
Missy, what were the highlights of the petition that you presented? And what was captured and what was not captured?
Yeah, some of the highlights. Actually, we presented a petition according to the nine points agenda that the gentleman has clearly, I think he's well informed about the BBI. And each and every agenda was linked to the perspective of a young person. If it is representation, how have we done, where have we lost in terms of including youth into positions of power and authority? Is the number of youth in parliament enough, to be a proper representation of the youth? So we looked at it. I think we need to increase the number of youths who are representing us in parliament. And we thought about at least 10% of a national assembly must be young people. Same to Senate, same to county assemblies. We looked at the areas of inclusivity. That is where the positions of power. And we looked at also in the economy. How do we make youths to participate in the national building actively? Let me, first of all, Trevor, allow me to give you this example. There exists a city that is called Nogales. This city is made up of Nogales, Arizona, and Nogales, Sonora. Arizona falls in the United States of America, and Sonora falls in Mexico. Now, they are only separated by a fence. But in Arizona, the people there, their life expectancy is so high. Their livelihoods, their living standards is 3 times those in Sonora. Their democracy, their medical care, everything. Employment is, the unemployment is low. Contrary to the situation in the Sonora. And they are only separated by a fence. The reason is there exist economic, political systems, institutions that are working so well for the people of Arizona. Remember, they are administration of United States, while the other ones are administration of the Mexico. So what has fallen so badly for these people, and yet they're only separated by a fence, is because of the systems that are set. The Arizona are living under the circumstances and the institutions set up by the United States. So you're failing because
of bad leadership?
So we fail because of the leadership and the systems that we've put in place.
Okay.
In my opinion, to solve all the evils and the ills that bedevil our country, we needed to look at our institutions, how well we've strengthened our institutions. We look at youth as a wholesome.
Yeah.
Because, like the lady has said, not all youths are in entrepreneurship. Then why do you have Uwezo Fund just focusing on entrepreneurs? Are you telling us all the youth can form groups and become entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
So we needed to look at what are the areas, what makes us as a country, what is our potential? Because every country has its potential.
Yeah.
We do not have the natural resources like the Arab world. We do not have the gas and the minerals.
Yeah.
So what do we have a country? We take, of course, our geopolitical positioning. We can take advantage like the Singapore did.
Okay.
Singapore were at par with us. So what made us a difference 50 years down the line?
Okay.
Singapore took advantage of its central location geopolitically,
right,
so that they attract the global flow of income.
Okay.
That is the same situation that Kenya is.
All right.
Now, there is a reason why I'm explaining, and you need to give me time.
Very briefly, because I'm running out of time.
Now, what is our potential as a country?
Yeah.
All this, they say if you are a poor person, all the problems will befall you. The reason why we are complaining all the youth have problems is because we are a poor nation. So the first thing is what is the shortest the shortest route to prosperity for this country?
Okay.
We need to look at how do we prosper as a nation.
All right.
Then some of these problems we cry, because why do we have the underdeveloped nations that are crying about youth population bulge? We do not hear it in the Scandinavian nation. We don't hear it in the European nation. It's because of the development index. So if we work on our prosperity first, then this youth, because we need, now the prosperity comes with the manufacturing, incentives for factories to be set here, and then we prosper as a nation. Now you are solving some of these problems of youth unemployment.
All right.
You know, why do I need to be in leadership if everything is working well? I don't need to be in leadership. If, as long as everything is working well, no youth will cry that I want to be in leadership.
Okay.
So there is, first of all, the things we need to fix as a nation, and the rest will fall into it.
And that is what we hope to BBI capture, the thing we need to fix as a nation. But I have to take a quick break, Arnold. I know you want to respond, and then I'll open the floor for questions. I see there are very many questions and concerns. Keep them brief when we come back right after this. Keep your views also coming. 22422, that's the SMS line. At Trevor Mbija, Citizen TV Kenya. #Monday Report. See you in just a bit.